Hello, everyone. We have been on hiatus. We took 2 weeks ago off, but we are back with episode 8 of Viive Values. And thank you so much for joining us and watching today. I'm going to go ahead and invite our guest. So excited about who we have today. Favorite month to be promoting a lot of education around aging and end of life planning. And I'm so excited for who our guest is today. Oh, here we go. Hello.
Hello.
Hey,
How are you?
Karen, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I'm just going to turn you up here so I can hear you better. Oh,
That might be me.
no, it's just my volume. I had it down low so
Okay.
my phone wouldn't bother me. All good. Well, thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate it.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Well,
Mm.
everybody, this is Karine Diedrich. She is the Director of Advanced Care Planning Canada, and I'm just going to share a little bit about her before we dive into some fun questions. So, as I said, she is Advanced Care Planning's Director, and she took on this monumental role in January 2021 and has contributed greatly to bringing awareness to the importance of advanced care planning to all citizens of Canada. You actually had this great quote on your LinkedIn, which I really loved and shared with my team as well. Working with exceptional people to create a meaningful impact. And I really, really like that because I think that can apply across so many different industries that really you need to look to that team of people that you're with. So awesome quote. Um, Something kind of cool about Karen is that she is a part of a blended family, which I am as well. She married a wonderful man and became a stepmother to two really awesome girls. And she's now a grandmother of two, which is just not possible. Look at how young you are. And she loves her family life so much. She also understands the importance of advanced care planning and in particular aging planning from her work and her personal life as her mother-in-law actually moved in with her and her husband during the COVID-19 pandemic. So it is a full multi-generational home. Her hobbies are puzzles. I mean, who doesn't have that as a hobby? And trying new things with her friends, like making sushi and llama walking. I mean, that's cool. And she started CrossFit a couple years ago, so she could totally kick your butt if needed. Anyways, thank you so much for being here. And I'm really excited about this because Advanced Care Planning Day, this is like your biggest day, is in what, 13 days on April 16th.
The countdown is
It
on. Yes.
is on. We call it Advanced Care Planning Month at Viive because I feel like we just need the full 30 days to like really dive into everything we want to talk about.
I know there's a lot. And I mean, for us, really, it's advanced care planning all the time,
Right.
but we tend to kind of go a bit louder in April, and a
Yeah,
lot of people do. I mean, I think it's a little overwhelming sometimes to think about it as a month, so we focus on a day.
that's
But
fair.
I agree. There's a lot to cover. A lot of people have a lot of
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
And you know what? COVID kind of changed the game for us a little bit.
I can imagine that. I can. And the questions, they can come in so many different forms. And I think there's a lot of different language that gets used. Like, you have your language of advanced care planning. We call it aging and end of life planning. More traditional service providers like lawyers and financial planners use the term estate planning. In the end, we're all just trying to get you to think ahead to getting older and dying and put some plans in place, right? So I think it's wonderful that you guys have your own way of doing that and really bringing education to the public.
Well, and I'm glad you raised that, Mallory, because really, I think one of the big shifts we've seen since I've joined is this shift to just positioning advanced care planning as part of life planning. So it
Okay.
doesn't matter where you're coming in, it doesn't matter how you're introduced to it, because we've had lawyers, we've had financial planners come to us because they say, I'm getting questions about healthcare planning. Can you help me? Can you help me
Mhm.
direct my client? Are you the right place to send them to? So it does kind of merge, and it's going to look and feel different for everybody, as I'm sure you know with the work that you do.
Exactly, exactly. I mean, I always say every client, every family is completely different. And when we create these lists of like these blanket lists of here's what you should do. I mean, they're great tools to have. We have them, we provide them. I'm sure you guys do as well. But they can't be the only thing that you do because a lot of times those little blanket lists don't cover all of the little, intricacies of each individual family. And so making sure you're working with someone who can really provide a broad outlook on what advanced care planning or aging and end of life planning or whatever is really key in the long run.
Well, and where you are in your life and what's important to you at that time, it's
Hmm.
going to dictate what you focus on, what kind of questions you ask, where you start. So we really like to think about advanced care planning as a journey. So
Yes.
often people are like, what's the document? What do I have to fill out?
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
like, well, sorry, I wish it was that easy.
I
Um,
know.
but it's really about thinking about what's important to you, thinking about who you trust
Hmm.
and who's kind of good in stressful situations, maybe, or in dealing with the unexpected, and making sure that your values and wishes continue to inform the care that you get, no matter what.
Exactly. And I feel like you touched on this, but one of our first questions really was like, what is advanced care planning? Like, what is your sort of party line at Advanced Care Planning Canada? How do you describe it to just an average person who just has no idea what we're talking about?
At its very essence, really, it's about getting the care that you want if ever you're not able to communicate for yourself.
Hmm.
That's why you do it.
Yeah.
Because what I want, what you want, what my husband wants, what my mother-in-law wants, they're going to be based on who we are, what's important to us, what's happening in our lives in that particular time. So
Hmm.
you mentioned, I've become a grandmother. Well, that's given me some pretty interesting new perspective on life,
Yeah.
right? And so it might change certain things. It might have me reconsidering some decisions or thought I had in the past. So really, it's about a process of thinking about what's important to you. And then with our tools and with our resources and with, planners like yourself, people can help to translate okay, so what does that mean,
Hmm.
right? So in the past, advanced care planning was very much a checkbox of what type of treatment do you want?
Yeah.
Well, it's really hard for me at 45 years old to tell you what I'm going to want for an illness I don't yet have.
Yeah.
So that's why we focus on what's important to you. What are your
Hmm.
values? What are your beliefs? What drives you? What brings you joy? What does a good day look like?
Hmm.
All of these different elements bring forward elements of your quality of life, elements of
Hmm.
what brings you and allows you to feel that sense of dignity, no matter what your life circumstances are, right? So there's that thinking and reflecting on what's important to you. And then there's thinking about your support network.
Hmm.
Who's around you? Who supports you? Who do you trust? And we have people in our lives who are great at a whole bunch of different things, right?
Yes.
So what's your support network look like? And who are you going to choose to speak up when you're not able to about what you
Hmm.
want? Who's kind of really well positioned to do that? And guess what? You have to talk to them about it. That's the other part, the conversations, right? So think about what's important to you. Think about who you trust and who supports, and what are the supports around you. And that doesn't need to be limited to your family. For a
Hmm.
lot of people, their family, they don't live nearby. It can
Yeah.
be pretty tricky to make those decisions if you're not, nearby. And then having some, making some choices about who's the person or people that you want to speak for you if ever you're not able to.
Hmm.
And those really, those conversations and those core elements, that's really how we define ACP.
Hmm. That's wonderful. I think there's a lot of common misconceptions around the work that you do and just the work that a lot of planners in the estate planning sphere do in general. And people hear words like advanced care planning or palliative care or hospice care, which I know are words that you for sure deal with all the time. And so, what are some of the most common misconceptions that you hear from people?
There's a lot.
Yeah.
At the Canadian Hospice Palliative Care Association, we often um, face this misperception that palliative care is limited to the final weeks or days of life.
Yeah.
It is so much more. And,
Hmm.
it can provide so much more. And so I think what we're in the process of doing and working with partners across the country to do is to clarify that a palliative approach to care is holistic care.
Hmm.
And it can start as soon as there's a diagnosis. So if you are receiving palliative care or you're being approached with a palliative approach to care, these are terms and things you might hear out
Hmm.
there. It's really, you can still be fighting your illness. You can still be having active treatment to get better
And you
while
could
receiving,
actually survive it.
yes,
Like, yeah, you can survive it. Palliative is not necessarily someone saying, by the way, you're going to die soon. That's not what it
no,
is.
palliative is holistic care. It puts the person and their family. That's the other part.
Hmm.
It's not just about the person, the individual with the illness. It's about their support network and making sure everybody has that support. So it's very robust, and I would say we often hear in healthcare person-centered care.
Mm.
I mean, it is at the essence of a palliative approach to care. It's social,
Mm-hmm.
spiritual, physical, psychological, all of those different things.
Yeah. Now, telling your loved ones about advanced care plans that you've made can lead to some pretty difficult conversations. I mean, this is my jam. This is what I love talking about all the time. But I would definitely be interested in your point of view on it. So, a lot of folks, they'll be nervous about broaching these topics because they don't want to upset the people that they care about, or because they're afraid their families won't actually agree with the decisions that they're making for their own life. So, how would you suggest people navigate these really tricky situations?
So one, know that there isn't one right way. So sometimes people
Mm-hmm.
are really anxious that they're going to do it wrong or that there's only one right way to do these things. There's
Yeah.
no one right way, and it doesn't all have to happen at once.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of different stories that we come across of people saying, you know what, um, some people are very direct. They're like, if I don't just blurt it out, it's not going to come out. And
Yeah.
once they start, it just kind of goes.
It's like word
Others,
vomit. Just keeps
yeah.
going.
And you know what? It's going to be, but you have to start. And the more
Yeah.
often you do and you try, the easier it gets.
Hmm.
Often we've seen people share, and some of our research, we do national polls pretty frequently. They talk about what prompted them to have these conversations.
Hmm.
There was the death of a loved one close to them, and it just
Yeah.
brings it home. Or there's an illness, somebody gets
Hmm.
diagnosed with cancer, or so there's kind of an event that happens close to you, and they use that as a prompt to say, wow, I thought it was amazing how they all knew and supported each other, and there was like this and that. Or, oh my God, I never want that to happen to me, right? So you
Hmm.
can use what you have seen around you. We've seen people like watch a movie, and the movie or the television show prompts it. So we did that one year for Advanced Care Planning Day. We had a movie screening,
Wow.
and we encouraged people to watch it with their family and watch it with their
Hmm.
friends and have the conversations, because it brought a whole
Nice.
bunch of topics. So there's no one way. You don't have to do it all at
Hmm.
once, and do what feels right for you. And if you don't want to do it alone, you don't have to, right? Find an
Yep.
ally, get some support, practice with somebody else.
Exactly. Exactly. And for some families, they don't have communication patterns around these topics. Like they just don't know how to, right? They don't talk about money. They don't talk about death. They don't talk about politics. They avoid these subjects because they tend to be contentious subjects. I mean, you have a couple kids, they get married, you throw grandkids in the mix. I mean, that's a lot of people's opinions on these topics. And just because you're family doesn't mean you're going to agree or have the same views. So it can cause a lot of stress. But going back to what you said about there's different ways to do it. I have this family, I talk about them all the time. They didn't really know how to have this conversation. And they said, if we just bring it up, even if you manage it for us, Mallory, it's just going to feel so unnatural to our family of four. And so I said, well, God, when your kids were teens, you must have had to have the sex talk with them or other talks. Like, how did you do this? And they said that they wrote letters to each other. Like
Hmm.
they couldn't handle the face to face. And I thought, well, this is an interesting opportunity. And so they did. They wrote, in this case, emails because their kids live far away. They wrote emails to their kids explaining the choices they'd made after working with Viive. And then that actually prompted them, without my involvement, having a Zoom call all together and talking through things. And, there's a phrase actually that one of the children of that family said to me, which is, oh, am I going to get it right? The intention is paramount to the medium. So I think I did that right. Basically, the idea is that the intention is what matters. It isn't the medium in which it's happened. So the letter writing, some people might be like, well, that's a cop out. They didn't actually have the conversation, but they did. Everyone understands what everybody wants. It's been made clear. I mean, as a person with a legal background, I would say that it's even more clear because it's in writing. So that's great, but that's okay to do things in a way that works for your family. It doesn't have to be a sit down conversation around the dining room table if that doesn't work for your family. What's key is that it's being communicated in some way.
Absolutely. And one of the things that we've also been talking about is this importance of documenting or recording your wishes in a particular
Mm-hmm.
way. And we talk about the same things. You can write a song, you can write a poem, you can write a
Yeah.
letter, you can do a video, whatever is going to help you feel the
Mm-hmm.
most comfortable and fits within the way that you communicate. Or, like you said, it's not normal for everybody to sit down and do these things. And the other thing I would
Yeah.
add is, it can be impromptu. It can be something happens and it's a conversation, and people might be having advanced care planning conversations and not even realize they're having them
Yeah,
because they are so informal. So
exactly.
don't sell yourself short.
Hmm. Exactly. No, for sure. Now, you mentioned you were 45. I'm 37. I'll throw it out there so we can both say our ages live. But that means I'm a millennial, you're a Gen X. So we are considered still younger adult generations, right? And this is definitely a sticking point, I think, for anyone in that estate planning bubble, is that it's really hard to get these younger generations to understand that anything that falls under the estate planning bubble is important for everyone, not just people who are getting older or who are sick. Like, no, like really, everybody should be thinking this way. And so at Advanced Care Planning Canada, I mean, what are some of your supports or tips and tricks you guys have used to really get a younger generation involved in this process, not just for their parents, but for themselves?
So there's a lot of interest and there's a lot of questions around this. So we still don't really have it figured out.
Yeah,
But we've seen different things, right? So I don't know how old you were. I don't even know if you have children. I think you have
I
children.
do. I
Okay.
do. I do. Yes.
Like I just assumed you do because I feel like you did. But
Yeah.
often these milestones, right?
Yeah.
So for our age group, it might
Mhm.
be your first home. Granted, with the housing market right now, that's tough. It
Yeah.
could be your first child. It could be a move. Any of those things
Mhm.
that are going to make you think a little bit more long term seem to be a
Mhm.
good hook. People
Yes.
talk about a driver's license, right? When you get a driver's license, you get this organ donation card. Okay.
Yeah.
But the reality is, I've been looking at behavior change for a very long time as part of my career. And
Hmm.
it has to matter to people. It has to be real. It has to be important. So,
Hmm.
one of the perspectives that we're looking at here is, what if we flip the script? So, what would it look like if I was to go to my father or my mother in law and say, listen, have you thought about these things? Because
Hmm.
ultimately, it's going to impact me. Whether or not I'm the designated decision maker or whatever it is, I'm going to be impacted in this in some way. And we know from the
Hmm.
research that people are motivated by reducing the burden on their families. That's a huge
Yes.
motivator for people. So even though it's not my advanced care plan, it starts that shift. It starts that culture of communication and thinking about these things. And that may be a way to kind of get it to say, well, listen, like, what about you? And so those are approaches we're playing with. And then also, honestly, just getting up with the times, having these IG live conversations, and
Right?
thinking of new ways of talking and engaging with different audiences. And so I think it's still a challenge for sure.
Hmm.
But our polls still show that on average there is it's trending towards younger and healthier in terms of when Canadians think people should start advanced care planning. So
Good.
we're not at the youngest and healthiest yet, but the message is getting through that
Hmm.
typically it's kind of early to mid 40s that we
Okay.
hear, and more it's when you're healthy, because
Hmm.
it's stressful
Good.
enough when you're ill or when you get a new diagnosis. If you've started this before, it reduces so much stress and burden.
Yeah. And I think we're going to see, I mean, we're definitely seeing it now. I mean, not as many of the boomer population had aging parents from the silent generation, but there was enough that that's where I think all of this started snowballing and whatnot. But we are going to see millennials and Gen X like yourself and myself really dealing with aging parents, right? This older boomer generation and supporting them through that process. And I always say we just need to like hang out for the next 5 to 10 years and then things are going to really get going, right? Because the boomers will get older, they will also start spending their money at an accelerated rate on their aging process. And we're going to see them not be so much the healthiest and wealthiest generation that we have. We're going to see that change happen. And then my hope is that the younger generations, their adult children go, oh, this isn't actually just important for them because here I am being greatly impacted by their life and their death and their wealth or lack thereof. And I don't want my kids to have that. I mean, my clients, the best clients I have are boomers who have dealt with or are currently dealing with an aging parent because they're like, this isn't how I want to spend my 60s and 70s. Yet here I am fulfilling this caregiving role and having to deal with the stress of all the family dynamics around that when there's multiple children. and they start planning to avoid that for their own kids. And as you said, that burden of care is something that people want to avoid. They want to avoid there being any strain in the family unit as well. And so that's something that we really push too, is this idea that there are, yeah, you can't avoid everything happening. Like at the end of the day, humans are crazy and they'll make ridiculous choices. But you can do as much as possible to possibly negate anything negative happening in the future. You just need to become comfortable with the idea that if you're lucky enough, because it is being lucky, you will get old. And eventually, regardless, you're going to die. And so if you can get comfortable with that concept yourself, then the planning isn't that difficult, especially if you work with someone who actually takes on the brunt of the, organizational work.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I mentioned COVID was a bit of a game changer for us. And I think there is this climate, right? Like society doesn't like to talk about these things. And we have these perceptions of things that might not really reflect reality. And so COVID did that for us. So we saw conversations between families kind of double. So on average, people were kind of having conversations. About 36% of people actually had a conversation with their family. That was 2019. 2021 went up to 59. We just finished our poll for 2024. It held steady at 61. So we were really nervous that it would just go right back down, right? Because the world is the world and people are people. But we know there was huge shifts, but it really put into perspective this sense of control, this sense of choice, and what are the options really? Like, what does this look like? And how older people were perceived, like the value of, I don't want to open up that can of worms, but it really did shift things and provides us with an opportunity for the work that you do and the work that we do to really get people thinking about why not plan for your health and personal care. I've seen people put more effort into wedding planning than this stuff.
Oh my gosh. Or promposals. I was talking with someone about a promposal the other day, and I was like, if you're helping your kid with a promposal and putting that much time and energy into it, you have time to do some advanced care planning. Sorry.
Yeah. So
absolutely ridiculous.
Hopefully we'll see some more gains, but it's definitely good. It's definitely looking up.
Awesome. And so as we said, April 16th is Advanced Care Planning Day, which means that a lot of organizations in Canada are going to be trying to raise awareness and share resources related to advanced care planning. So is there anything in specific that you want to plug and share with our audience today?
I would just encourage people to visit our website any time of the year. So advancedcareplanning.ca. We do have a campaign page for Advanced Care Planning Day 2024. We try to do different things. So this year, the theme is If Not You, Who? So we don't want to overwhelm folks with the entire advanced care planning process. And it's really an invitation to just think about who's your support network? Who are the people that you trust? Go on to the campaign page. There's some reflection prompts. Just get you thinking about some things. We have a photo mosaic, so you can be a part of that. We have lots of, a campaign kit if you want to help us spread the word. There's lots of different things people do. And then we have an event listing. So sometimes people want a little more guidance. They don't want to just go on a website. They want more information. So around this time, there are a lot of community events, some virtual, some in person. So we have an event calendar that people can check out and just see what's happening around them, or go to Advanced Care Plan. So on our website, there's ACP across Canada. That will help you to connect to resources in your region. So if you're looking for information or you're looking for someone to talk to specifically about your scenario or your case, that's a great place to go. So I think that website for sure is a great place to go. Follow us on our socials and just, take a bite, try it. Let us know what you think.
Yeah. That's awesome. And yeah, you guys have done a great job. I've seen since April has begun, starting to post more and share some videos of different service providers and things like that. I know I have a video and a blog coming out with you guys, I think on April 16th, I believe is the day they're releasing mine. So that'll be really cool. But I think it's important that we continue to support our boomer and older generations, but then continue to really push for, you're in my generation to realize, like I always say, there could be a bus outside waiting to hit me right now. I kind of have to be ready for that, right? So I think that it's great that you guys are trying to bring in some younger voices to also really, advocate and push through this incredible message that you have. And I feel very honored that I have been a part of it this year.
Well, we can't thank you enough, Mallory. You've been such a great advocate for ACP since I joined the organization, and I'm sure before that. And I think, what's really special about ACP Day this year is we're really focusing on stories. we're really focusing on all the different perspectives, because once people see it, they're like, oh, okay, I get it. But we're all
Yeah.
different, right? So there's lots of stories right now on advancedcareplanning.ca. But if folks have a story they want to sell, if they have had an experience, please contact us. Let us know, because we're
Yeah.
on the storytelling wagon. We are looking to carry this on. So we've got the blog series, we've got videos, but it's not going to stop after Advanced Care Planning Day, right? Because
No.
stories connect us. And
Hmm.
so, thank you for telling your story. Thank you for continuing to, well, for giving us this platform and for sharing
Of
our
course.
message. And I would encourage anyone kind of listening now or later to please contact us, info@advancedcareplanning.ca, if you want to learn more, if you have questions, or if you want to share your story, because we all learn together.
That's awesome. I will put that email in the comments, and I'll also put a link to, I believe you said it was your events page, in case people are looking to find some more in-person or virtual resources that you can check those out. Thank you so much, Karine, for being here. I really appreciate you taking time out of your very busy month and chatting with us. And I hope that you and your family have a wonderful Advanced Care Planning Day.
Thank you so much. Same to you.
Awesome. Bye.
Bye.